It's your smell what the bird is barbecuing.
G'day jabronis, this is the Verd. Just quickly, this is for the battle video. Basically, I forgot to record a team builder for this match against Abe. So yes, hashtag blame Verd in the chat, I don't really care. I'm just going to kind of run down the team that I brought against him, and then I'll kind of discuss it a little bit in the game itself, but just a bit of background in case I explain some things and you're like, Verd, what are you talking about? You're absolutely wrong. So, here is a lovely Arcanine, Arcanine-like. It is speed creeping Nido King. Rocking pretty good set. I initially was going to run this like really cool burn up set, but decided against it, decided to run Toxic Roar instead to beat Darm and other stuff and whatnot. Just it's really solid. Check Sizzle, can't be asking for. Plus Toxic plus Morning Sun beats non Toxic Gastro, so that's kind of fun. This set was like my piece de resistance. This Zygarde, okay guys, so this Zygarde was designed so that no special attack Celebi's Giga Drain wouldn't break my sub, so that no attack Sizzle's U-turn wouldn't break my sub, so that Scald and Earth Power from Gastrodon wouldn't break my sub, and so, well, I don't know why I'm saying sub, because I'm not running substitute. I'm just running a turn defensive and a quiet nature. The basic premise of this set was I go for 1,000 waves, and the two mons that come in against Zygarde on this team are Mega Sizzle and Celebi. I trap in either of them, I drop an HP Fire and blow away this Mega Sizzle, or I Core Enforcer, which nullifies abilities, which means that I can negate Celebi's natural cure and then proceed to Toxic, which means it will stay poisoned. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that, which is hilarious. It was so dumb, so dumb. Beedrill, I was running just a fair Rakkus for there because I didn't really need that much force anywhere. A little bit of bulk just to take a bullet punch, but pretty straightforward set. Protect just to scout if you scarf Darm and whatnot. Realistically only needed U-turn and P-jab really for this matchup. Lead Nihilego, pretty straightforward again. Main premise was just to get up rocks and not get killed by something else like Scout Me or his Scarf Mons. Might be all that good stuff. But yeah, pretty straightforward set. I really wanted HP Fire. This is what I decided on Psyshock for Nido King instead. That was not what I wanted to hear, but thanks, computer. Really appreciate it. These wins that will pop up on this stupid recording. So there it is. You got thought. Anyway, Umbreon, pretty standard biz dev set because, you know, we have a way of doing immense. But, you know, Wish Protect, all that jazz, pretty straightforward again. And then we've got Old Mate Kartana here, just a classic Scarf set, just trying to run through a team. Yes, Sizzle is a problem. Remember, guys, we've got a way to deal with Sizzle and Celebi to allow this Kartana to be a potential sweeping machine. So yeah, that's the team. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the game.
G'day fans of the NPL, it is the Verd, back with you again, and welcome here to our Week 7 match of the National Pokeball League. Speaking of which, look at this nice merch that you can get. Go check it out. I'm pretty sure we have it in the description, like the shop you can go to on Redbubble. Dan's done some fantastic work. He's done the Tampa Frogadiers one that I've got, and also there's this NPL one, so rock the merch because it's good stuff. But anyway, we are here with Week 7. Tampa Frogadiers, we're doing okay. We're 4-2 with a +3 differential, so we're doing alright so far this season on the positive spectrum, which is really, really good. And we want to keep on moving forward from this. There's only 4 weeks left, guys. We really want to make that push for playoffs. I was talking with Joel about it. We think about 6 or so wins should be enough. It's a really close race between, well, Gypsy and Cheese, if they both win out this week, go to 6-1. And then if Jolt and I both win, we go to 5-2. And Rob Jr.'s just played. Sorry, this is a spoiler if you haven't gone and seen him and David's game. Just spoiler warning there. But he ended up beating David, which means that he's now at 4-3, which is massive, because Abe and I both are 4-2 as well. If I lose here, it puts me below Rob. It doesn't mean I don't think I'm going to get, like, it won't put me in a relegation battle of any sort, because I think 4 wins should be enough to see me out of relegation, I hope, but you never know. So a win today would be big, because I think a win here, 5 wins, should not see me get relegated this season, and that would be probably the best case scenario for me here. But we're going to go into the kind of battle analysis and all that jazz now, so if you guys are hyped for this, like the video, all that good stuff. But regardless, Abe's team was very interesting this week. He chose to bring the Sneasel and the Gastrodon over what I assumed would be a Tapu Koko and a Salamence. I figured they were the better two for her to put. Everything else kind of seemed how I thought it would be. I just felt that Koko was such a big threat to my team. Like, I didn't really have that much. Like, obviously I had like things that could come in. Her like Beedrill obviously outspeeds it, but at the same time, he has Sizzle, he has Nidoking, he has switch-ins for that, as well as the fact that I think a Scarfed Koko could have been really strong here. And then Mence in general, whether it be Intimidate or DD, is just always such a massive threat to any team, so I feel like that could have been something he brought here too. But then again, like, at the same time, guys, Gastrodon is his best check to Nihilego. It can take hits from Arcanine especially, because Arcanine's a huge threat to his team if he doesn't bring potentially Gastro. And Sneasel is a very strong Mon in this matchup, being able to hit Zygarde very hard, being able to punch through Beedrill's brittle defense. I figured if he's like a Scarf Sneasel, that could be annoying too, but regardless of what he does here, I have a very clear opening turn play for myself, and that is just leading with Nihilego as he leads with Darmanitan, and I just go for my rocks. So he doubles out into Nidoking, which is fine to get my rocks. Now, at this point, I guess he'd seen rocks so far, and I think on this turn, he actually makes a prediction for me to want to switch out here. Expecting maybe to go to my Umbreon so he can go into his Celebi in a bit of a stronger position. But obviously I'm sashed, so what I can do here is kind of scout. If he is Scarfed, he'll outspeed, but I can get really good chip on the Nidoking, wear it down, which is really, really handy. And then I can switch out afterwards. And if he is... yeah. Sorry, I had to pause there for 1 sec. I had to do something there. Basically, because I am sashed, I can scout whatever Nidoking set this is. Psyshock is a 2-hit KO on even max HP Nidoking, so I felt really confident just clicking Psyshock here. If he was Scarf, so be it. I take a lot of health from Nihilego, but I do have the rocks up, which is massive here. I do have other ways to break down things like the Darmanitan and the Celebi, for example. So I do just choose to go for the Psyshock. He actually goes out to Celebi. Like I said, predicting me to want to go out to Umbreon, it made a lot of sense in that situation. If I wasn't sashed, I can understand that. I go for Sludge Wave here. It does an absolute ridiculous amount. And I guess this was a misplay on Abe's part, potentially. Well, I don't really know. He chose to go for rocks here. The Sludge Wave does an absolute ton to Celebi. Now, on his calc, as he was kind of looking back on it, he was accidentally calculating all the VGC stuff, and it showed that like the Sludge Wave was doing like 56 to 67, not the obvious 76 that you just saw. So that meant that obviously I would have done less damage, and potentially Celebi could have lived. I think maybe, judging on that damage, though, he would have still been either in Sludge Wave range, or I could have just gone for a Power Gem afterwards, because again, like I said, I'm sashed, so I can put the Celebi down in quite low range, to a point maybe where it can't just go for a Cover Stall against me, and then I can Power Gem on the next turn, because at this, well, I could also just keep on Sludge Waving, because for him, he doesn't know if my last move is HP Fire, or potentially Grass Knot, so it's a bit iffy for him to go into the other Mons. But because of how much damage that did, he got his calc wrong, and it's going to be pretty detrimental for him now, because at this point I'm pretty free to click Power Gem, although it does reveal my moveset. At this point, if Gastrodon wants to come in, I don't think he will. I think he'll just sack Celebi, because the only thing on my team that Celebi can come in against with the set that he is and recover on is Umbreon, and that would be requiring Umbreon to basically kill a Mon at that point, because everything else on his team outspeed. So it's really unlikely that something like that would happen. So I do just choose to Power Gem and knock out Celebi here, which is fantastic. So Celebi, all it did in this game was set up rocks. That's really good for me in the long run, because it opens the door for Kartana to potentially sweep, and it also opens the door a bit more for Zygarde. Like, obviously Zygarde, like I said, was designed to trap Celebi to an extent, but at the same time, now he just doesn't really have a lot of switch-ins to Thousand Waves Trap, which is really, really solid for me. He chooses to go Nidoking here, and this was because from the damage output that he'd seen from my Nihilego, because he got the calc wrong, he assumed that I was an Expert Belt Nihilego, like modest Expert Belt Nihilego, which I guess is fair enough. Like, he assumed that. It's unfortunate the calc did that, because if he'd known that if I wasn't, then he would have just gone Gastrodon quite safely, since he could see that I had Sludge Wave, Power Gem, and Psyshock, no real way to hit Gastrodon hard. And if he had gone Gastro, I could have easily just preserved Nihilego, brought it in again against, you know, potentially Darmanitan or something else if I needed to. later in the game, or Celebi locked into, I don't know, like Pursuit or something, trying to kill something else, who knows. But in this situation, I think just he was on a bit of tilt, and he didn't realise, and so I'm going to take full advantage of this. I hang on my Focus Sash, and Psyshock will now +1 be able to knock out the Nidoking, and this is where, you know, he was super confused, and he goes into Sneasel, and there's no point for me to preserve, because I chose to run Sacred Sword over Defog on my Kartana. There's no point to try and preserve. The rocks are better staying up anyway, because they will weaken his Sneasel and his Darm. Although my Beedrill and my Arcanine will be taking rocks damage, it's just a lot better to exchange in that situation, especially when I'm up 6-4. If I'm hurting half of this team with rocks and I want to keep them up, there's no real point to preserve any Nihilego, and there's no real point to go out to Arcanine hard here. I'd be better off just going out into it afterwards. So he goes to the knockoff. Now he could potentially be Scarfed, so I don't want to take any risks. I go into my Arcanine, as he is going to go out to Darm, as I am able to drop a Toxic on him, which is really nice. Now at this point, so like, the thing about this game that was really unfortunate was that because of Abe's calcs going wrong, he sacked one of his bigger win cons in the Nidoking, because like Scarf King can really run through a lot of my team in this matchup, and also he maybe could have preserved Celebi if he knew the damage would have been a lot greater to it. Like he could have predicted the Sludge Wave, gone out to Gastro, and then maybe baited the Grass Knot, going out to Sizzle for free. Like there were a lot of options for Abe to do, and I think it was just, unfortunately, his calcs meant that he ended up making the wrong decisions, and it really cost him in the long run of this game. But I respect Abe a lot, and he respects me too. And the thing is, though, when you when your opponent is put in this situation, you have to take advantage of it. In a game like this, as much as I respect Abe, he would do the same. Like if you have the opportunity to seize momentum, you have to do it, and that's what I try and do here. So I figure, judging on the fact that I've seen lefties on this Darmanitan, I assume it is the bulk up set. I have gone for Poison, so I assume if he is the bulk up set, he's going to be the Mono Fire Punch set. So I go for Raw here, as he actually reveals the Toxic, which is really annoying. Also, the really good thing about the Raw is that it doesn't show him yet that Arcanine does outspeed the Darmanitan, because my Arcanine will actually outspeed it later on, you'll see, but that's really good too. And the Raw out to Scizor is really nice, because that just shuts that down. I think I choose to go for a Flare Blitz here. Reason being is because I do a ton to Darm, and basically put it in a situation where I either force him into the rest of this turn, or he has to go for like an attacking move against me, which I can take quite easily. The funny thing about that Sludge Wave roll too, guys, on the Celebi was I actually got a Min roll, as Trev just put up in the calc, which is kind of funny, kind of crazy. But yeah, anyway, at this point my play is just a Morning Sun. I want to keep my Arcanine as healthy as possible, just to be able to deal with Scizor if I needed to. And I figure that he would just go for something stupid. He goes for the bulk up. If he'd gone for the rest, I could have just rolled him out again, so it wasn't too bad. And at this point, what I can just do is knock him out with the Flare Blitz. I will take, obviously, toxic damage to the point, which is not ideal, because now what he does is he goes into Sneasel. Now, I figured he would go for Pursuit here, but at the same time, I felt it wasn't... He kind of had to go for the... he kind of had to go for the Pursuit. It was one of those things where I had no reason to risk the predict of it, because I knew that Knockoff would probably knock out Arcanine from here, even though I have max HP. Sneasel is quite strong, and my safest play was going into Umbreon, because Arcanine had a chance to Intimidate plus Morning Sun up on Sizzle, still had a chance to poison the Gastrodon, still had some viability in this game, and even if Sneasel did Pursuit kill the Arcanine, then I could just go into Umbreon afterwards and handle the Sneasel fine. So I do try to go out to it, and he does go for the Pursuit. Puts me in Rock's range, and that's fine. He gets hurt by Rocky Helmet, which is cool. I go on to Umbreon, and he's not going to risk going into anything else. He just chooses to knock, which makes sense. I guess these next few turns you'll see Abe is trying to predict me to want to go for a switch out to something else, but at the same time, like, I have no reason to. And he just goes for Crash. He gets a crit. It's fine. One thing I was actually really tempted to do, since I'd seen that he wasn't choiced, was go for the Baton Pass, but at the same time, keeping Umbreon as healthy as possible is the important thing. He goes into Sizz, and my play 100% here is sacking Arcanine, because if I do that, Sizzle's just going to Mega up here and go for the Roost, and this is the opportunity that I've seen coming. Zygarde's in, guys, and if you guys know this Zygarde set, you know what's coming. Looking at the state of affairs, though, I have to play these turns really carefully, so I'm going to go for 1000 Waves this turn, and if I 1000 Waves and trap the Scizor, I think we're pretty good for this game. If he goes out to Gastrodon, all I do then in that situation is go out to my Umbreon, I can kind of stall it out, or just wait for that turn to open up and go into maybe like a Beedrill or Kartana at some point. The important thing is just keeping Zygarde around, because it is like my only check left to Scizor. Potentially could have gone out to Gastro here. I don't know if he would have risked that though, potentially. But what I'm going to do here is actually be able to fire off the 1000 Waves and trap in this Scizor as he goes for the SD. And I was sitting here like, okay, this could be bad, but judging on the 1000 Waves damage, he is a very bulky Scizor. So this is a bulky SD set, just like all the other ones that I've faced. It is the best set in this matchup, but also showing that even with a quiet nature, my Zygarde was able to outspeed his Scizor, which is crazy. I have the bulk to be able to take a +6 Bullet Punch from a Scizor, even if it is max attack adamant. So Zygarde is fat, and so I know that I can take any 2 hits he throws at me, and I know that Hidden Power Fire is definitely going to be a 2 KO. So I just drop the Hidden Power Fire. It's time, guys. The Hidden Power Fire is here, and that does a ton as he goes for another SD, because in this situation, I guess Abe thought that if I was 1000 Waves, I might also be DD, but that is not the case. I am not DD, and at this point, it is over. Even judging on the fact that he is a bulky Scizor, because from the damage you can tell that he has a ton of bulk investment, it means he doesn't have that much attack. So because of this, it means that I'm going to be able to live the Bullet Punch, even if he crits me from here, knock out the Scizor, and then all I have to do is Toxic Gastrodon on the next turn, scout, pardon me, for the potential lefties. If he does have lefties, then I know Kartana has it sealed in the back. So he BPs, does literally 0 to me. I can just Hidden Power Fire, knock out the Scizor, and we are in a phenomenal spot here. Gastro is going to come in, and I'm going to fire off the Toxic, which is quite good. He goes for the Scald and actually picks up the Burn, which was... It would have been annoying if I was a physically offensive Zygarde, but obviously I'm more specially offensive. I actually go for the Core Enforcer. I get a little bit lucky here in that I get a crit, which basically puts Gastro now in range of dying to another Core Enforcer, which was super unfortunate for him, but we are going to take advantage. Like I said, this game was more about just unfortunate calc mistakes by Abe and myself taking advantage of the situation, and sometimes you have to do that, guys. Like I said, I respect a ton of Abe, and I respect all the coaches here, but if there's an opportunity to seize momentum in a game, you have to take it, and there was an opportunity there. Abe, you know, he didn't do his calcs correctly, and I took advantage, and we're able to pick up a massive 4-0 win. That is easily our biggest win of the season. All of our games have been like either 1-0 or 2-0 wins and losses, but this is a huge win for us. So we now go to 5-2 with a +7 differential. We are in a very, very good chance of making playoffs right now, which is kind of crazy. I didn't really expect the opportunity to be able to get into playoffs. I was, you know, I felt our team was good, but I never really, you know, sat there and said like, yeah, we're definitely going to make playoffs. You know, like I was never ridiculously confident in my team's chances. I was more just happy to see the team doing well in general, and just keen to see where we could go from here potentially. So to know that like after 7 weeks we're 5-2, and that basically ensures that we'll be in the NPL again next season, that's awesome. That's all I could really ask for in my first season, was just being able to hold my own and be able to survive for a season. So I'm pretty stoked with that. But I do have some big news to finish off this little battle. Obviously, GG to Abe. Go check out his channel, guys. He's a really good friend of mine. You know, phenomenal battler. I think, you know, it's funny. He and I are kind of polar opposites. I'm more of a builder kind of person like that, and he is more just the raw talent when it comes to battling. Unfortunately, the calcs undid him this week. But yeah, go check him out. Really good guy. But the big thing that's happening is there are my last transactions for the season, and oh, are they a couple of doozies. So basically, I decided I was looking at the rest of my matchups this season, and I wasn't really liking the look of Umbreon. I really enjoyed Umbreon this season, but looking at my last few matchups, my last 3 weeks are against Cheese, Shardy, and Gypsy, and Umbreon, I don't see it coming to any of those games. So I decided that I wanted to really drop Umbreon this week, but I also wanted to try and make it worth my while, and a potential trade popped up to where I could trade off him on, get in something ridiculous, and then be able to downgrade Umbreon, and I was like, that sounds pretty perfect to me. So basically the trade though would require me to have to give up points, so I had to downgrade Umbreon. So Umbreon has been downgraded to Wobbuffet. So I haven't really used Wobbuffet that much actually in draft format, but I like the pressure that it gives a lot of teams, forcing your opponent to really be careful of the sets that they bring in certain matchups. I think for sure is going to be massive. Being able to put that pressure on is going to be huge, and I think that against a lot of my, not necessarily against my last 3 opponents, but it also has a really good chance against some of them. Just in the way that Wobbuffet can be played, it can really pressure a lot of them out, and I think that's going to be a huge factor. And also in playoffs, it'll be a really pivotal mon, just because it can fit into any matchup. If your opponent doesn't prep well enough for it, it's going to be huge against you. And that meant, guys, though, that obviously that left 2 free points. So with those 2 free points, I struck a deal with my good friend Matty Brolick, and I actually ended up giving him Starmie. Now I know Starmie is a very good Pokemon, a fantastic spinner, and I only recently brought it in. So why on earth would I drop Starmie and drop Umbreon? It's because when it comes to Starmie, obviously the spin was great, but a lot of the time I wasn't even finding room for the spin, and I could pressure my opponent with rocks. Regardless, case in point, this game against Abe, I had 2 rocks weak mons, but his team was also rocks weak, so I just doubled down and it worked out perfectly. So I'm going to keep the Empoleon as my default option. Also, Stealth Rocks is really solid, and it's my Bulky Water. Bulky Water is a bit of a contentious statement, but it's still a solid mon there. And it meant, guys, that I had enough points to give Matty Brolick Starmie, and in return, I got Hooper Unbound. So, Hooper Unbound is now part of the Tampa Bay Frogadiers roster, which is terrifying. Like, Wobbuffet's terrifying, but Hooper, man, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited to be using Hooper because I've never really actually... I used it for a bit. No, did I use it? I played against it a lot in Summer Showdown tournament. Last time around it came, and like it's coming around again soon. Well, actually, I think by the time this video is uploaded, it would have passed. But regardless, I played a lot against it. I know that it's a huge threat, whether it be Trick Room, Scarfed, Banded. There's so many sets. Unfortunately, I used my last transaction to drop Umbreon to Wobbuffet, which means I am not able to change Hooper to my Z move user. It's stuck on Zygarde for the rest of the season, but I'm okay with that. Because Hooper doesn't even need the Z move to be incredibly effective in a lot of its matchups. It has a lot of really cheeky hidden techs that I'm really excited to be able to exploit, and I think that Hooper in general is going to be a really strong mono for him. Like, the thing is, if you think about our offense, guys, we have Zygarde 50%, we have Mega Beedrill, we have Kartana, Nihilego, Hooper Unbound, Arcanine. I feel like I'm forgetting like a really important one too, but then like defensively we still have, you know, did I mention Nihilego? I'm pretty sure, but like defensively we still have the Rotom, the Empoleon, we have Wobbuffet to potentially trap, so it's a really solid team in general. We still have 10 mons as well, which is fantastic, so I think it's going to be a really strong team to finish off our season with. It's going to make my opponents matching up against me have freaking nightmares trying to prep for it, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. This team creates a lot of chaos, and that is really what I wanted to achieve here. I think that this is going to give us a good run to the end of the season. It could be costly because Starmie is a very important Pokemon in a lot of matchups, but I think also Hooper is just too good to refuse. And with the offense that my team has now, it's going to be really... I could literally bring 6 offensive monsters each week, and it's going to be so hard for my opponent to be able to wall them all, but at the same time, you got to have that balance. So next up for us is Cheese Boy 628 and the Phoenix Sunkern. I don't actually know how their game's going yet. I'm recording this before he's actually played his game this week, so it's going to be interesting to see how that match goes. He could be either 6-1 or 5-2 like me, which does open the door potentially for me not only to overtake him by the end of this week, but also the opportunity to, when I play him, leapfrog him, which would be massive. If I could beat Cheese next week, I think that I will definitely be in playoffs. Yeah, I'll be 6-2. Cheese will be either 6-2 or 5-3. But at that point, Rob Jr. would still be at least 1 behind with 2 games to go. It's going to be interesting for sure to see. It's really close, like I said, with playoffs. It really depends on how all the coaches play. But you know, right now I'm pretty happy with the team. I'm not going to ramble on anymore because I literally just spent 6 minutes after the actual battle was done talking your faces off. So I'm sorry about that. But regardless, guys, like I said, we got the win against Abe here. We go to 5-2. with a +7 differential. Next up is Cheeseboy. We now have Wobbuffet and Hooper Unbound instead of Starmie and Umbreon. I think it's going to be really good for the team. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go check out all the coaches, go check out the merch, do all that shit, guys. Come on. Get excited for the Frogadiers too. We have done so much better than I expected us to do in NPL this season, and I want us to keep going to better and better. But my name's The Verd, and I'm out this bitch.